the Abrahamic faiths, they all seem to have their subsect of mystical branches, whether it's Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And I'm curious about Sufism. Is it a non-dual philosophy at the end of the day? And the Abrahamic, these mystical Abrahamic sects, are they kind of like a middle ground between Eastern philosophy, or are they trying to bring it together? Because it seems like when we start looking into the experiential and the divine nature of God in all things, we might be talking about non-duality here. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that, how Rumi fits into that.
Good question, but what do you mean by non-duality or duality in
Well,
the first place?
dualistic would be the idea that God is separate from. There's a
Mm,
distinct line between God and all of reality and His creation, where
right.
non-duality is saying that God is in everything, even the ugly, and may not
Amazing.
be even a distinct being in itself, just the conscious awareness of all reality.
Amazing. Yes. Well, everything goes back to jurists in my examples. I don't like that. So for jurists who do not study mysticism or philosophy or so radical as to reject them, they say no, there is God transcendent and there is the created. There's the human being. How dare you say I am the truth? They executed Hallaj, who was a Sufi mystic. They killed him just because he experienced that unity and said, I am the truth. They killed him. So there is this radical view. Again, I'm not generalizing. I'm not talking against all the jurists. I'm talking about a specific sect. Um, for them, there is this God apparently in the heavens, in the skies, and separated from the created. And then there is the majority of the mystics in Islamic tradition. Um, let's start with Ibn Arabi, the father of Sufism. Most probably you have heard of the doctrine of Wahdat al-Wujud, that is the doctrine of the unity of existence, oneness of being, however you translate it. And God permeates existence through his spirit. What does that mean? We need to go back a little bit. We need to read a little bit of Plotinus. Plotinus says there is this Devan. From Devan, emanation starts. Devan emanates, creating intellect. The intellect emanates itself. Very technically, we don't need to get into technicalities. And the soul come in, and then the individual souls, and then the material body. We see pretty much the same picture in Sufism, in Islamic mysticism. There is a divine essence that is absolute, non-delimited existence. In Islamic, in Islamic mysticism, divine essence is equal with existence, but absolute existence. What do I mean by absolute existence? There is this pen, it has existence, it has color, it has shape, it is long. We can write with this to see how do I define it by putting it into borders, like right? By giving it some features, saying it's red, it has color, it has such and such. Now, take its shape away from it. Take its function away from it. You see, the purer existence gets, the simpler it becomes. There is existence in the entire world, but it is defined. It is within what we are defining everything with specific words, with specific definitions. When you're transcending this existence, the higher you go, whether that is the soul, the intellect, and then going towards divine names and the divine essence, the simpler it becomes. You cannot define it. So there is this transcendental aspect of divine essence that you cannot define in Sufism. Even saying that you cannot define it is a limitation, right? You're even saying that it's transcendental, it's a limitation. So from that essence, existence, important, existence emanates, creating divine names. The first level of multiplicity is started. And from there, the corporeal manifestation of the divine names happen. So in Sufism, especially with Ibn Arabi, there are two kinds of manifestations. First, the undetermined essence of God becomes determined in his knowledge, in the ilm ilahi, as we say in Arabic. The quiddities, the essences of every created being are conceived in God's mind in quotation. And then in the second manifestation, second emanation, those are reflected into material existence. So the first stage, the second stage. The first plurality is divine names. The second plurality, the second manifestation is the corporeal masks that those names put on and come into existence. So existence is one for Ibn Arabi and for Sufism. The reality is one. But what the plurality you see in the world, especially in the material world, is the result of different manifestations of different divine names. So the underlying existence is the same. What you see here is divine manifestation, but it is not pantheism saying that, look, this is God, this pen is God. Because in pantheism, in a strict radical sense, the universe is God. There is this equality, but in Islamic Mysticism, there is no equality. There is a substantial difference. God's essence is different from the created realm's essence. Then you're going to say, okay, you just said God emanates into the world. That is true, but what we have here is God's manifestation, not his essence. It's, to put it poetically, it's a reflection of God. The universe is God, says Ibn Arabi, and it's not God. What do I mean by that? So he says, the universe is God in the sense that it's a manifestation of God's essence, and it's not God in the sense that it's not God's essence. Think of it as this projector being there, reflecting something on the wall. The picture that you're seeing is at the same time what is in that projector, and it is not what is in that projector. To put it in like this simplistic example form.
Yeah. It you know what it does though? It like when you were describing it, and to be fair, you know, we're limited by speech in some way. When you say, you know, you talk about non-dualism, and you were saying you realize that God may be even all of it, even the ugly things. And the way you were describing it, you know, as we go up the elevator, there's so many different floors to get off and kind of decide that that's what it means. But at the zenith, the top of the experiential conclusion of that, I think might lead to the conclusion that, like, what if there just aren't ugly like ugly is a concept, evil is a concept. And if we're if what we see here is God's reflection, if all of this manifestation is like God's reflection or emanating from God, there's just so much room there for us to get wrapped up in concept and lost and carried away with concept and distinctions. You know what I mean? They're tools. They're tools that help us move through this world, and, you know, our ability to judge and all this stuff gets us through. But it seems like if you got to where Rumi was trying to get to, which is this like desperate love affair with God, by the point you actually got there and Rumi discovered what he had maybe initially been seeking for, the distinctions of good and bad would be like so redundant. It would be like, what does that even have to do with anything? You know what I mean? And maybe that's when you get that kind of thing, it makes you do peculiar things. Maybe sometimes you might feed yourself to a tiger out of just what the heckness, you know what I mean? Because I think being there might birth a state of being where you're detached from the world, but you're not suffering it. Meaning, like, you might hear something peculiar said, like, I don't have a death wish. I'm not in a hurry to die, but I'm not afraid of death either, because I know God. I know them. If you want to get serious, I am God. You're God, we're God. Some of us are a little confused by that. This is God. And so I'm not frightened of something like that the way a typical person would be, you know, in the same, but I'm also, don't misunderstand. I'm not in a hurry to get out of here. There's nowhere else to go. I'm eternal already. You know, and that just seems like a rare insight. You know, it seems like a rare thing that, you know, only a few people have. And then we're fascinated by them, and we read over what they've said we study it. We want to know it. I want to know it. I want to be what Rumi was. You know what I mean? I'm not interested in seeking. I'm interested in finding.